The pregnancy test clattered onto the black marble counter, and Gio's entire world fractured. 2 pink lines, unmistakable, impossible. His hands trembled as he gripped the edge of the sink in Songho's penthouse bathroom, the floor-to-ceiling windows behind him reflecting Seoul's Hanam-dong skyline like 1,000 watchful eyes. His reflection stared back, pale skin flushed across sharp cheekbones, dark hair falling into his face, wireframe glasses slightly crooked, his eyes wide with something between horror and rage. This couldn't be happening. He'd been on suppressants. Religious about them. Every single morning for 6 years. Yobo. The word cut through the bathroom door, low and smooth as aged soju, that possessive endearment wrapping around him like a collar. Come out. Gio couldn't move, couldn't breathe. His chest felt like someone had wrapped iron chains around his ribs and was slowly crushing them. The omega suppressants, the ones that had kept his heats manageable, his fertility locked down, his freedom intact, had failed. Or worse. I said, come out. Not a request this time. A command in that tone that made Biko clan lieutenants drop to their knees. Gio forced his legs to work, opened the door, and found Songho leaning against the doorframe. He discarded his suit jacket, and his black dress shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, revealing the ink that crawled up from his collarbone, a white tiger mid-strike, claws extended across his throat, stripes disappearing beneath expensive fabric. At 6 feet 3 inches, he towered over Gio's 5 feet 9 inches frame, all controlled power and lethal precision. But it was his face that made Gio's blood run cold. He wasn't surprised. Wasn't shocked. Wasn't anything except satisfied. You knew. The words scraped out of Gio's throat like broken glass. Oh my God, you knew. Songho's dark eyes tracked over his face with an intensity that made Gio's skin prickle with equal parts fury and something he refused to name. His alpha pheromones rolled out in waves, sandalwood and smoke and possession. Of course I knew. Gio's voice cracked. I've been on suppressants for 6 years. They don't just fail. What did you do? Songho pushed off the door frame and moved toward him with that predatory smoothness that had once made Gio feel safe. Now it made him feel trapped. The alpha reached out and tucked a strand of hair behind Gio's ear, the gesture gentle but the grip on Gio's chin that followed was iron. I started switching them out 8 weeks ago. The words landed like a physical blow. Gio jerked back, but Songho's other hand caught his wrist, holding him in place. Gio couldn't process it. Couldn't reconcile the man who'd held him through panic attacks about his presentation with the one who'd sabotaged his medication. You replaced my suppressants? You baby-trapped me? I ensured you'd stay. Songho's voice was matter-of-fact, as if he were discussing a business acquisition and not the complete destruction of Gio's autonomy. 3 weeks, Gio. You had 3 weeks left on your contract before you disappeared back to New York. Before you slipped through my fingers. So what? You thought getting me pregnant would? Gio's laugh was jagged, broken. You're insane. I'm thorough. Songho's thumb traced Gio's jaw, and the Omega hated how his body responded, how the bond between them sang even as his mind screamed. You're mine, Yobo. You've been mine since the moment you walked into my office 6 months ago. This, his hand moved to Gio's still flat stomach, possessive and reverent, just makes it permanent. Nothing about this is permanent. Gio shoved at Songho's chest, but it was like pushing against a wall. You don't own me. This doesn't change anything. Songho's smile was all teeth, all predator. It changes everything. You're carrying my child. My heir. You think I'm letting you get on a plane to New York now? You think I'm letting you out of my sight? The reality crashed down on Gio like a collapsing building. The partnership track at the Manhattan firm. The carefully planned exit strategy. The handler waiting for his final intelligence drop on Biko clan's financial operations. His mission. All of it, Ash. You had no right. Gio's voice shook with rage. You had no fucking right to make that choice for me. I had every right. Songho pulled him close, alpha pheromones flooding the space between them until Gio's omega biology betrayed him, his body relaxing despite his mind's protests. You're mine, Gio. Mine to protect. Mine to keep. Mine to bind to me in every way that matters. He leaned down, his lips brushing Gio's ear. And now? Now you can never leave. Gio's phone buzzed in his pocket. Once, twice, 3 times. The pattern he recognized immediately. His handler. Demanding an update. Demanding results. And Gio stood there, pregnant with the child of the man he was supposed to destroy, feeling the walls of his gilded cage slam shut around him. The morning light hit the penthouse windows at exactly 7:03 a.m., and Gio hadn't slept. He sat on the edge of the bed, their bed, still wearing yesterday's clothes, the pregnancy test on the nightstand like a tiny bomb. Behind him, Songho was in the shower, and Gio could hear the water running, could smell the alpha sedan smoke scent saturating the air. 3 weeks. He'd had 3 weeks left. Now he had, what? 9 months? 18 years? Forever? His phone buzzed again. Another message from the burner number. Status update required. 48 hours. Gio's hands clenched. The handler didn't know. Couldn't know. The mission was to get close to Cho Songho, extract financial intelligence on Biko clan's operations, and disappear before anyone realized he'd been a plant. Simple. Clean. Except nothing about Songho had been simple. The alpha had seen through every careful lie, every practiced smile, every calculated touch, and instead of exposing Gio, he'd kept him. Drawn him deeper. Made Gio want to stay even as every survival instinct screamed to run. And now? You're thinking too loud. Songho's voice came from the bathroom doorway. He was in dark slacks and nothing else, water still beading on his shoulders, tattoos on full display. The white tiger across his chest seemed to move in the shifting light. I can smell your distress from here. Maybe because you sabotaged my suppressants. Gio didn't look at him. Couldn't. I secured my future. Songho crossed the room, each step deliberate. Our future. There is no our future. There's you being a controlling psychopath and me figuring out how to. How to what? Songho sat beside him, close enough that their thighs touched. Leave? You're not leaving, Gio. Not now. Not ever. You can't keep me prisoner. I can protect what's mine. Songho's hand covered Gio's, threading their fingers together. Do you know what happens to Omegas who carry the children of clan leaders? Do you know how many enemies would kill for the leverage you represent? Gio's stomach dropped. He hadn't thought, hadn't considered. The Choi family has been trying to take Biko territory for 2 years. Songho's voice was clinical, detached. The Park Syndicate would pay millions for information on my personal life. And there are a dozen smaller operations that would love nothing more than to put a bullet through the head of my Omega and the child he carries. I'm not, Gio swallowed. I'm not your Omega. You are. Songho turned Gio's face toward him, fingers firm on his jaw. You've been my Omega since the first time you went into heat in my presence and begged me to. Don't. Gio jerked away, shame flooding through him. That night 3 months ago, when his suppressants had mysteriously failed for the first time. When Songho had found him in the firm's bathroom, delirious and desperate, and had taken him back to this penthouse and... Oh God. 3 months ago. Gio's voice was hollow. That wasn't an accident either, was it? Songho's silence was answer enough. You've been planning this. All of it. Gio stood, needing distance, needing air. The heat. The bond forming. Now the pregnancy. You've been systematically destroying every exit I had. I've been ensuring you stay where you belong. Songho stood as well, and suddenly the room felt too small. With me. You're insane. I'm in love with you. The words hung between them like a knife. Gio laughed, the sound cracked and awful. That's not love. That's obsession. That's... That's the only way I know how to love. Song-ho moved closer, backing Gio against the windows. I told you from the beginning, I don't do things halfway. When I want something, I take it. When I love someone, I keep them. Even if they don't want to be kept. Especially then. Song-ho's hand settled on Gio's stomach, possessive and gentle. You'll understand eventually. When you feel our child move. When you realize that everything I did to protect this. To protect us. Gio's phone buzzed again. 36 hours. Extraction protocol available if needed. Who keeps messaging you? Song-ho's voice went cold. Work. The lie came easily. Too easily. The firm needs. You're not going back to the firm. It wasn't a question. Excuse me? It's not safe. As of this morning, you're on indefinite leave. Song-ho stepped back, reaching for his phone. I've already informed your supervisor that you're dealing with a family emergency. You what? I'm protecting you. Song-ho's expression was impassive. Starting now, you have a security detail. Junho and Jae-won will accompany you anywhere outside this penthouse. No exceptions. You're assigning me guards. Gio's voice climbed. You really are keeping me prisoner. I'm keeping you alive. Song-ho pulled on his shirt, buttoning it with precise movements. You want to hate me? Fine. Hate me. But you'll do it while alive and safe and carrying my child. He crossed to the bedroom door, then paused. Oh, and Gio? I had your passport moved to my private safe. Just in case you were thinking about running. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Gio stood alone in the golden morning light, looking out at Seoul spreading beneath him like a beautiful trap, and felt the walls of his gilded cage lock into place. His phone buzzed once more. Time is running out. He knew. The bodyguards arrived at noon. Gio was picking at breakfast he couldn't taste, some expensive spread Song-ho's chef had prepared, when the penthouse door opened and two men walked in like they owned the place. The first was tall and lean with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, moving with the casual violence of someone who'd killed before and would again. The second was broader, built like a wall, with cold eyes that catalogued everything in the room including Gio's exact location and the three nearest exits. Kim Tae-minute Hwang Jae-won. Song-ho materialized from his office, suit jacket on now, every inch the clan leader. They'll be with you whenever you leave the penthouse. Whenever Gio set down his fork carefully, fighting to keep his voice level. I don't need babysitters. You need protection. Song-ho poured himself coffee, maddeningly calm. Tae-minute handles close protection. Jae-won coordinates with our intelligence network. Between them, they've kept me alive through 4 assassination attempts. Gio's mouth went dry. 4. That we know about. Tae-minute's voice was gravelly, accent pure Seoul underground. He bowed slightly to Gio. We'll keep you safe, sir. I'm not. Gio looked at Song-ho. This is insane. I'm just an architect. Nobody cares about. You're carrying the heir to Biko clan. Song-ho's tone went diamond hard. The Choi family has informants in every major firm in Seoul. By now, they know you exist. They know you're mine. And they know that the fastest way to hurt me is through you. The words landed like ice water. Gio had been so focused on the pregnancy, the betrayal, the mission, that he hadn't processed the target now painted on his back. I have work calls scheduled, Gio said, grasping for normalcy. Meetings. I can't just handle them from here. Song-ho checked his watch. I have to go to the shipyard. Tae-minute and Jae-won will remain with you. If you need anything. Freedom? The word came out more bitter than Gio intended. Song-ho crossed the room, cupped Gio's face, and kissed him, possessive, thorough, claiming. When he pulled back, his thumb traced Gio's lower lip. Safety first. Freedom later. In that order. Then he was gone, and Gio was alone with 2 trained killers and the suffocating weight of his new reality. The bathroom was the only place without cameras. Gio checked 3 times before pulling out the burner phone hidden inside his electric toothbrush case, a ridiculous spy movie cliché that had seemed clever 6 months ago. Now it felt like a child's toy in an adult's war. He typed quickly, compromised. Pregnancy confirmed. Security increased. Need extraction. The response came within seconds, negative. Mission priority. Stay embedded. Gio stared at the screen, nausea rolling through him. I'm pregnant. Can't complete mission. Pregnancy is leverage. Use it. Access to financial records critical. 72 hours. His hands shook so badly he nearly dropped the phone. They'll kill me if they find out. Then don't get caught. Stakes too high to abort now. Biko clan laundering 4-3 syndicates. You're our only inside sauce. Gio wanted to scream. Wanted to throw the phone against the marble tile and watch it shatter. Instead he typed, "What about the baby?" The pause stretched long enough that Gio wondered if his handler had disconnected. Then, acceptable collateral. Complete mission. Acceptable collateral. His child. The tiny cluster of cells growing inside him. Acceptable collateral. Gio deleted the conversation, dismantled the phone, and flushed the SIM card. His reflection in the bathroom mirror looked like a stranger, pale, hollow-eyed, trapped between two monsters who both claimed to want him for different reasons but treated him like a tool just the same. Outside, Time Minute was stationed by the door. J1 sat in the living room, laptop open, probably running surveillance on every person Gio had ever met. Songho had locked him in a golden cage and thrown away the key. His handler had turned him into an acceptable sacrifice. And Gio stood in the middle, pregnant and cornered, with 72 hours to decide which monster would destroy him first. Gio had argued for 2 days about attending the unveiling. I designed half that building, he'd snapped at Songho over breakfast. I'm not hiding in this penthouse while someone else presents my work. Songho had relented with conditions, Time Minute and J1 in tactical positions, 3 additional guards in plain clothes, and Songho himself attending despite having no legitimate reason to be at an architectural firm's event. Now Gio stood in the glass-walled event space of the luxury development in Gangnam, surrounded by Seoul's elite, and tried to remember why he'd fought so hard for this. The building was beautiful, all clean lines and natural light, his designs transformed from blueprints into steel and stone. His former supervisor was mid-presentation, gesturing to the scale model, when Gio caught Time Minute's expression shift from watchful to lethal. Everything happened in heartbeats. Time Minute's hand went to his concealed weapon. J1 moved toward Gio. Songho, who'd been standing near the bar with predatory patience, was suddenly in motion. Then the first window exploded. Glass erupted inward in a crystalline wave. Someone screamed. Gio felt something slice across his cheek, hot and sharp, before Songho's body slammed into him, taking them both to the marble floor. The Alpha's weight crushed the air from Gio's lungs, one hand cradling the back of his head, the other reaching inside his jacket. Gunfire. Actual gunfire. The sharp crack of automatic weapons shredding the careful aesthetic Gio had spent months perfecting. Stay down. Songho's voice was ice-cold against Gio's ear. Do not move. More glass shattered. Gio could see people running, scrambling for exits, his supervisor face down behind the presentation table. Blood, there was blood on the marble, he couldn't tell whose. Songho rose in one fluid motion, gun drawn, and Gio watched the man he'd slept beside for 6 months transform into something else entirely. The Alpha moved like violence choreographed, 3 shots, precise and devastating. Through the broken windows, a body fell from the building across the street. Time Minute had 2 men on the ground. J1 was directing the evacuation with lethal efficiency, and Songho. Songho emptied his clip into the remaining shooters with the casual precision of someone ordering coffee. The silence after was worse than the gunfire. All clear, Time Minute reported, voice flat. 4 hostiles. 3 down, 1 in custody. Song-ho holstered his weapon and dropped to his knees beside Gio, hands immediately cataloging for injuries. His fingers found the cut on Gio's cheek, came away red, and something in his expression turned absolutely murderous. Who authorized this? His voice could have cut diamond. Who fucking authorized a hit in a public venue? Choi family colors on the vests, J1 called out. This was a message. Then let's send one back. Song-ho lifted Gio like he weighed nothing, cradling him against his chest despite Gio's protests. Get the car. We're leaving. Now. I'm fine, Gio managed, but his voice shook and his hands were slick with blood. Some his, some from the glass, some from whoever had been standing too close. It's just a cut. You're bleeding. Song-ho's thumb traced the wound with devastating gentleness. You're pregnant and bleeding and they tried to. His jaw clenched so hard Gio heard teeth grind. They're all dead. Every single person who planned this. I'm going to find them and I'm going to. Hyung. Time in its warning tone. Omega first. Revenge later. Something in Song-ho's expression fractured. He pressed his forehead to Gio's, sent flooding out, smoke and cedar and barely controlled rage. You're okay. Tell me you're okay. Gio couldn't finish. Couldn't process that he just watched Song-ho kill 3 people with the same hands that touched him with reverence each night. Get him to the car, Song-ho ordered, but didn't release his hold. Call Dr. Minute. Have him meet us at the estate. Estate? Gio's blood went cold. What estate? Song-ho looked down at him, and in those dark eyes Gio saw something worse than rage, saw absolute, unshakable determination. We're leaving Seoul. Tonight. The helicopter lifted off from the building's rooftop at 9:47 p.m., and Gio watched his life disappear beneath him. Seoul spread out in a glittering grid of neon and ambition. The city where he'd spent 6 months building a cover, a mission, a lie that had somehow become the most real thing he'd ever felt. Now it was shrinking to toy-sized buildings and ant-like cars, and Gio was strapped into leather seats beside an alpha who just killed 3 people without breaking a sweat. The paramedic, one of Song-ho's people, because of course Biko clan had their own medical team, finished bandaging the cut on Gio's cheek. 16 stitches, he said over the rotor noise. Could have been worse. The glass missed your eye by centimeters. Could have been worse. Gio almost laughed. He was pregnant against his will, trapped by a mafia boss, had just survived an assassination attempt, and was being evacuated to an undisclosed location like some kind of war refugee. How exactly could it be worse? Song-ho's hand found his, threading their fingers together with that possessive gentleness that made Gio want to scream. The alpha hadn't let him go since the shooting, not in the car, not during the rooftop sprint, not even when the paramedic needed to work. As if physical contact was the only thing keeping Song-ho from coming completely unhinged. Where are we going? Gio asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted the answer. Gangwon Province. Private estate in the mountains. Song-ho's thumb traced circles on Gio's wrist, over the pulse point. 40 minutes from here. Completely secure. You mean completely isolated? I mean safe. Song-ho's jaw was tight. The Choi family just declared open war. They hit you in public, Gio. In broad daylight. At your workplace. They're not playing by the old rules anymore. Gio stared out at the darkness rushing past, at the city lights giving way to mountains and forest. So your solution is to lock me in a mountain fortress. My solution is to keep you alive. Song-ho's voice went rough. Do you understand what I saw today? Do you understand that I was 30 seconds away from watching you die? I had a cut. You had glass inches from your throat. Song-ho turned Gio's face toward him, forcing eye contact. If time in it had been 1 second slower. If I hadn't reached you in time. If that shooter had adjusted his aim, his fingers trembled against Gio's jaw. You would be dead. Our child would be dead. and I would have burned Seoul to the ground. The absolute certainty in his voice made Gio's blood run cold. This is insane, Gio whispered. This whole situation is insane. I'm an architect. I design buildings. I'm not cut out for assassination attempts and helicopter evacuations, and you're cut out for whatever I need you to be cut out for. Song-ho pulled him close, until Gio was tucked against his chest, breathing in smoke and cedar and alpha pheromones that made his omega biology purr even as his mind rebelled. Because you're mine. And I protect what's mine. Through the helicopter window, Gio caught a last glimpse of Seoul, the Han River snaking through it like a silver vein, the towers of Gangnam where his penthouse prison waited empty, the firm where his carefully constructed cover identity had just shattered like the glass that had drawn his blood. He'd come to Seoul as a spy, stayed as a lover, and now he was leaving as the Mafia boss's omega, pregnant, trapped, and bound to a man who loved him like a vice grip loves whatever it's crushing. His phone was still in his jacket pocket. The burner was gone, flushed away in pieces, but his regular phone held apps and contacts and a digital trail his handler could follow. If they wanted to extract him, now would be the time. Send a team. Stage a rescue. Pull him out before Song-ho buried him so deep in the mountains that Song-ho's hand covered his pocket. I'll need that. What? Your phone. The Alpha's tone was gentle but immovable. No outside contact until we know who leaked your location to the Choi family. You think someone at my firm? I think someone somewhere told them exactly where to find you and exactly when you'd be vulnerable. Song-ho held out his hand. The phone, Yobo. Gio's last connection to the outside world. To his handler. To any possibility of escape. He handed it over and watched Song-ho power it down, remove the SIM card, and pass both to time in it. You'll get a clean one at the estate, Song-ho said. Secure line. Encrypted. Monitored, Gio added bitterly. Protected. Song-ho kissed his temple, the gesture heartbreakingly tender. Everything I do to protect you. You'll understand that eventually. The helicopter banked east, leaving Seoul's lights behind entirely. Ahead, Gio could see nothing but darkness and mountains and the fortress where Song-ho planned to keep him until, what? Until the baby was born? Until the Choi family was eliminated? Until Gio forgot what freedom felt like? He closed his eyes and felt the cage door slam shut with the finality of helicopter blades cutting through mountain air. The estate was beautiful in the way prisons could be beautiful. All traditional Korean architecture reimagined with bulletproof glass and security systems that probably cost more than Gio's entire education. They landed on a helipad carved into the mountainside, and Gio's first view of his new cage took his breath away. The main house was traditional Hanok style, curved rooflines and dark wood, but massive, sprawling across the peak like a sleeping dragon. Stone walls ringed the compound, tasteful but unmistakably defensive. Guard posts disguised as garden pavilions. Cameras hidden in the eaves. It's been in my family for 3 generations, Song-ho said, hand at the small of Gio's back as they walked toward the entrance. My grandfather built it after the war. Nobody knows it exists except in a circle. A secret mountain fortress. Gio's laugh was hollow. How perfectly Bond villain of you. I prefer to think of it as a safe house with good feng shui. Song-ho opened the door, and warm air rushed out, cedar and ondel heating and something else, something that made Gio's omega instincts perk up with uncomfortable interest. Alpha scent. Everywhere. This was Song-ho's den. Guest rooms are in the west wing. Song-ho guided him through the entrance hall, past traditional screens and modern art that probably cost 6 figures. But you'll stay in the master suite. With me. Of course I will, Gio muttered, but he was distracted by the space, by how the traditional architecture flowed into contemporary luxury, by the floor-to-ceiling windows that somehow made him feel both exposed and protected. By how right it smelled. His omega biology was betraying him, had been since the helicopter, growing worse with every breath of Song-ho's concentrated scent. His body recognized this as a den, as safe, as home in a way that made his rational mind want to scream. You need rest. Song-ho opened the door to the master suite, and Gio's breath caught. It was enormous, traditional Korean sleeping platform updated with modern luxury, bathroom that was basically a private spa, and windows overlooking the mountains wreathed in mist. And the nest. His Omega brain immediately catalogued the massive bed with its excessive pillows, the soft blankets, the perfect positioning for security and comfort. He could already imagine rearranging it, building proper walls of pillows, creating that instinctive safe space for. No. Absolutely not. I'm fine, Gio said, but his hands were shaking and his cheek throbbed where the stitches pulled. You're not fine. You're injured and pregnant and you just survived an assassination attempt. Song-ho steered him toward the bathroom. Let me clean the wounds properly. The paramedic already. Let me. Something raw in Song-ho's voice made Gio stop protesting. The Alpha sat him on the marble counter, gathered supplies from a cabinet that was apparently stocked like a field hospital, and started with devastating gentleness to clean the smaller cuts the paramedic had missed. Glass dust embedded in Gio's hands, a scrape on his neck, dried blood at his hairline. I should have seen it coming, Song-ho murmured, fingers feather-light against Gio's temple. Should have known the Choi family would escalate. You're not omniscient. I'm supposed to be prepared. Song-ho's jaw clenched. When I saw that first window explode, when I saw you standing there, his hands stilled. I've never been that afraid in my life. The admission hung between them, raw and honest. Gio looked at him, really looked, and saw past the Mafia boss, past the possessive Alpha, to the man underneath who was genuinely terrified of losing what he'd so ruthlessly claimed. Why me? The question escaped before Gio could stop it. You could have anyone. Why trap me? Song-ho's thumb traced Gio's uninjured cheek, touch reverent. Because you're the first person who ever looked at me and saw a man instead of a monster. Because you argued with me about architectural theory at 2 a.m. like my power meant nothing. Because, his voice cracked. Because I've never wanted to be good for anyone before you. Gio's chest ached. This would be so much easier if Song-ho was just a monster. If he didn't have these moments of vulnerability that made Gio want to. His Omega instincts surged, demanding he comfort his Alpha, soothe the distress he could smell rolling off Song-ho in waves. His body leaned forward without permission, seeking contact, seeking. He caught himself, but barely. I hate this, Gio whispered. I hate that my body wants you even when my mind knows this is wrong. I know. Song-ho pressed their foreheads together. But we have time. Time for you to see that I'm not your enemy. That everything I do is to keep you safe. You took my choice. I made one for us both. Song-ho's hands settled on Gio's waist, possessive but gentle. And I'd do it again. Every time. Because a world where you leave me isn't a world I can survive. It should have terrified him. It did terrify him. But some traitorous part of Gio's Omega heart understood exactly what Song-ho meant. Gio woke to find Song-ho standing at the window, silhouetted against the pre-dawn mountains. He'd fallen asleep in the nest, because that's what it was now. He'd spent an hour rearranging pillows and blankets while Song-ho watched with barely concealed satisfaction, but the Alpha wasn't beside him. Instead he stood motionless, shoulders rigid, radiating the kind of tension that made Gio's Omega instinct scream wrong, Alpha distressed, fix it. Song-ho? The Alpha didn't turn. Go back to sleep. But Gio could smell it now, the acrid edge of distress beneath the cedar and smoke. He slipped out of the nest, padded across cold floors, and stopped a few feet behind his captor lover monster. What's wrong? Today is the anniversary. Song-ho's voice was flat. 16 years since I watched my father die. Gio's breath caught. In 6 months together, Song-ho had never mentioned his father. Never mentioned anything about his past except that his grandfather had started Biko clan from nothing. He was Omega, Song-ho continued, still not turning. Beautiful. Gentle. Everything my beta grandfather wasn't. My grandfather loved him desperately, but love doesn't stop bullets. Doesn't pay debts. Doesn't keep rival families from deciding your Omega spouse is the perfect pressure point. Gio moved closer, drawn by the rawness in Song-ho's tone. I was 12. Old enough to understand what was happening but too young to stop it. Song-ho's reflection in the glass showed no expression, but his hands were white-knuckled fists. The Song family wanted territory my grandfather controlled. Sent a message by taking my father from our home. My grandfather tried to negotiate. Tried to pay. Tried everything except what needed to be done. Which was? Burn them all. Song-ho's smile was terrible. Instead he followed their rules. Played by their codes. And 3 days later they sent my father back in pieces. Gio's stomach turned. My grandfather never recovered. Drank himself to death within a year. Left me the clan at 13. Song-ho finally turned, and his eyes were black glass. Do you know what I learned watching my father die because my grandfather was too weak to protect him? Gio shook his head, throat tight. That love without power is just permission for someone to take what you love. That mercy is a luxury only afforded to those strong enough to be cruel. That if you want to keep something, his hand came up, cupped Gio's face with devastating gentleness. You don't ask permission. You don't play by anyone's rules but your own. So you became the monster your grandfather couldn't be. I became strong enough that no one would ever take from me again. Song-ho's thumb traced Gio's stitches. My father died because my grandfather loved him too much to do what was necessary. I watched him beg, watched him break, watched him choose honor over action until there was nothing left to save. And you decided you'd never be that helpless again. I decided I'd burn the world before I let it take what's mine. Song-ho pulled Gio against him, and for once the embrace felt less like possession and more like desperation. When I saw that window explode yesterday, when I saw you standing in the line of fire, I was 12 years old again. Helpless. Terrified. Losing everything that mattered. Gio's arms came up around Song-ho's waist, his Omega instincts overriding his rational mind's protests. I'm here. I'm alive. Because I got to you in time. Song-ho's voice broke. Because I've built enough power, enough fear, enough control that I could protect you. But it's never enough. It will never be enough. Every enemy I eliminate spawns 2 more. Every threat I neutralize reveals 3 I didn't see coming. So you trapped me. Made sure I couldn't leave where you couldn't protect me. I made sure you'd stay where I could keep you breathing. Song-ho buried his face in Gio's hair, breathing him in like oxygen. I'm not asking you to forgive me for taking your choice. I'm asking you to understand that a world where you're free but dead isn't a world I can allow to exist. Gio should have been angry. Should have pushed away from the alpha who'd sabotaged his life and justified it with childhood trauma. But standing there in the dawn light, feeling Song-ho shake with 16 years of unprocessed grief, Gio understood something terrifying. Song-ho wasn't a monster who loved. He was a man so traumatized by love's failure that he'd rebuilt himself into something that could survive it, and the cost was everyone he touched. Your father, Gio said quietly. What was his name? Minute-jun. Song-ho's voice was barely audible. He used to sing while he cooked. Terrible voice. Perfect pitch. He'd dance me around the kitchen and tell me that being Omega didn't mean being weak. It meant being strong in ways alphas couldn't understand. He sounds wonderful. He was. Song-ho pulled back enough to meet Gio's eyes. And I've spent 16 years making sure his death meant something. Making sure no one could ever do to me what the Song family did to my grandfather. Even if it means becoming the thing that traumatizes someone else. The question hung between them like a blade. Yes, Song-ho said simply. Even then. Gio found the package 3 days after their arrival. It was hidden inside a shipment of prenatal vitamins that Dr. Minute had prescribed, innocuous, carefully placed where only Gio would find it. A single burner phone wrapped in medical gauze, no bigger than his thumb, with a note in sterile print, secure location. Call. His hands shook as he locked himself in the bathroom, turned on the shower for noise cover, and powered on the device. It rang once before connecting. Agent 7. The voice was distorted, mechanical, but Gio recognized the cadence. His handler. The person who'd recruited him 18 months ago with promises of debt forgiveness and a clean slate. Status report. I told you, Gio whispered. I'm compromised. Pregnant. Under constant surveillance. The mission is more critical than your personal circumstances. The handler's tone could have frozen blood. Biko clan isn't just local organized crime anymore. Our intelligence confirms they are laundering for 3 major syndicates, Russian, Chinese, and a domestic coalition. We're talking billions in untraceable funds flowing through Cho Song-ho's operations. I don't care about. You should care that if we don't expose this network, it funds everything from human trafficking to weapons deals to political corruption at the highest levels. The mechanical voice sharpened. You were recruited for a reason, Agent 7. Your architecture background gave you access. Your Omega status made you invisible. And your debt made you motivated. Gio's chest tightened. The debt. His father's medical bills, the loan sharks circling, the threat of his family losing everything. The handler had made it all disappear in exchange for 6 months infiltrating Song-ho's organization. Things have changed, Gio said. He knows, he's paranoid about security. I can't access his financial records without. You're living in his private estate. Sleeping in his bed. Carrying his child. The handler's laugh was mechanical and cruel. You have more access than any operative we've ever placed. You just need to use it. He'll kill me if he finds out. We'll kill you if you don't deliver. No inflection. No emotion. Pure fact. You have 72 hours to access and transmit Cho Song-ho's complete financial network. Banking codes, shell company structures, money flow documentation. Everything. That's impossible. Then you'd better get creative. Because if we don't receive that data in 72 hours, we activate permanent termination protocol. Gio's blood went cold. You'd kill a pregnant Omega? Would eliminate a failed asset and acceptable collateral damage. The handler paused. Your father's medical debt has been reinstated as of this morning. If you're terminated, so is the protection we've provided your family. The loan sharks know where your mother lives, Agent 7. They know which hospital your father is in. They know. Stop. Gio's voice cracked. Just stop. 72 hours. The phone has encrypted upload capabilities. Get us the files or accept the consequences. Why are you doing this? I've given you everything. You've given us 6 months of surveillance and pillow talk. We need actionable intelligence. We need proof. And we need it before Cho Song-ho's operation goes so deep underground we lose our chance to dismantle it. The mechanical voice softened fractionally. This is bigger than you, Agent 7. Bigger than your pregnancy. Bigger than whatever feelings you've developed for your target. He's not, Gio swallowed. He's not just a target anymore. Then you have a choice to make. The handler's tone went arctic. Your alpha's criminal empire or your family's survival. The monster who trapped you or the people who raised you. 72 hours to decide which side of this war you're really on. The line went dead. Gio sat on the bathroom floor, water still running, and felt the last piece of solid ground crumble beneath him. He thought the worst choice was between freedom and captivity, between running and staying. He'd been wrong. The real choice was between the man who'd stolen his autonomy but would die to protect him, and the people who'd recruited him with lies but held his family hostage. Between the monster who loved him like possession and the organization that valued him as ammunition. His hand went to his stomach, to the tiny life growing there that both sides considered expendable. 72 hours to betray Song-ho or watch his family destroyed. 72 hours to become the weapon his handler needed or the corpse Song-ho's enemies wanted. 72 hours to decide if he was a spy, a victim, or something worse, the person who destroyed everyone he touched just by existing between two worlds. Outside, he could hear Song-ho moving through the suite, probably looking for him, alpha instincts demanding to know where his Omega was. Geo flushed the note, dismantled the phone, and stared at his reflection in the mirror. The stitches on his cheek were healing. The shadows under his eyes were not. He stepped out of the bathroom to find Song-ho waiting, concern etched across his features. "You okay? You were in there a while." "Morning sickness," Geo lied, and hated how easily it came. "I'm fine." Song-ho pulled him close, and Geo let himself be held by the man he might have to destroy in 72 hours. If he could figure out how to survive the choice at all. Geo waited until 3 a.m., when even time in its patrol patterns had gaps. Song-ho was asleep, one arm thrown possessively across where Geo should have been, and the guilt was a living thing eating Geo from the inside. 48 hours since the handler's ultimatum. 24 hours left. His mother's face haunted every decision, his father's labored breathing in that hospital bed, the lone sharks who'd made their lives hell before the handler had made it all disappear. Acceptable collateral, the handler had said about Geo's baby. I'd burn the world, Song-ho had said about losing Geo. And Geo stood between them with blood on his hands before he'd even begun. Song-ho's office was in the north wing. Behind 3 security doors Geo had watched the Alpha unlock a dozen times. The code was burned into his memory, his architect's brain cataloged patterns like breathing. 6 digits. The date of Song-ho's father's death. The lock clicked open with a sound like a gunshot in the silence. The office was exactly what Geo expected, traditional Korean aesthetics married to cutting-edge technology. Multiple monitors, encrypted servers, and a safe built into the wall behind a painting of white tigers. Geo's hands shook as he powered on the main computer. No password prompt. Song-ho trusted the physical security enough that. No. Song-ho trusted Geo enough that he didn't think he needed passwords in his own home. The realization was a knife between his ribs. Geo pulled out the burner phone, fingers flying across the keyboard. Banking files, shell company structures, wire transfer records, everything the handler wanted, everything that would dismantle Biko clan and send Song-ho to prison for life. Or get him killed by the syndicates he'd been laundering for. The upload bar crawled across the screen. 15%. 20. Geo's heart hammered against his ribs. Almost there. Just a few more minutes and he could. Interesting choice of midnight reading. Geo's blood turned to ice. Song-ho stood in the doorway, barefoot and shirtless, and the expression on his face was worse than rage. It was understanding. The terrible, dawning realization of betrayal. Song-ho, I don't. The word cracked like a whip. Don't you dare lie to me. Not now. Song-ho moved into the room with predatory slowness. How long? I don't know what. How long? The roar made Geo flinch. How long have you been spying on me? How long have I been sleeping beside someone sent to destroy me? Geo's throat closed. The upload was at 70%. If he could just stall. Song-ho's eyes flicked to the screen, to the progress bar, and something in his expression shattered. He crossed the room in 3 strides and ripped the cables from the computer, ending the transmission. 18 months, Geo whispered. They recruited me 18 months ago. Before you even came to Seoul. Song-ho's laugh was broken glass. Before we met. Before, his hand went to Geo's stomach, then jerked away like he'd been burned. Was any of it real? Any single moment between us? Yes. Geo's voice cracked. God, yes, it became real. That's the problem. The problem? Song-ho grabbed Geo's wrist, yanked him close enough that Geo could see the rage and anguish warring in those dark eyes. The problem is that I fell in love with a lie. The problem is that I sabotaged your suppressants and trapped you here because I couldn't bear to lose you, and the entire time you were, what? Gathering intelligence? Waiting for the right moment to put a bullet in my head. No. They wanted information, not. Who sent you? Song-ho's grip tightened. Who the fuck sent you into my life? A coalition. Multiple syndicates. They said you were laundering, that you were funding trafficking in weapons and... So you believed them. Song-ho's smile was terrible. You believed whoever sent you over the man who, his voice broke. I told you about my father. I told you things I've never told anyone. And you were reporting it. I stopped reporting after the first month. Gio was crying now, couldn't stop. I stopped because you weren't what they said you were. Because what we had was a mission. Song-ho released him, stumbled back like proximity hurt. You're good, I'll give you that. The innocent architect act. The reluctance. Making me work for every touch, every confession, he pressed his palm to his chest. Did you laugh? When I told you I loved you? When I explained why I couldn't let you go? I love you. The words ripped out of Gio. I know I have no right to say it, but I do. I love you and I hate myself for what I've done and The explosion cut him off. The entire estate shook. Alarm screamed. Through the windows, Gio saw flames erupting from the south gate. Song-ho's expression went from heartbreak to lethal in a heartbeat. He grabbed a gun from his desk drawer, checked the clip with practiced efficiency. How many? What? Your extraction team. Song-ho's voice was ice. How many did they send to get you out? I swear I didn't call for extraction. Another explosion. Closer. Gunfire rattling in the distance. Song-ho's radio crackled. Time in its voice, clipped and urgent. Boss, we're under assault. At least 20 hostiles. Military-grade equipment. They're cutting through the perimeter. Hold them. Song-ho was already moving, grabbing body armor from a hidden closet, moving with the efficiency of someone who'd prepared for this exact scenario. Pull everyone to the main house. Priority is, he looked at Gio, and the pain in his eyes was devastating. Priority is keeping the Omega alive until we sort out which side wants him dead. Song-ho, please? You don't get to please me anymore. Song-ho tossed him a vest. Put this on. Whatever happens next, you're staying alive long enough to tell me every single person involved in this. Every name. Every organization. Everyone who sent you into my life to destroy it. They have my family. Gio's voice broke. My parents. They said if I didn't deliver the files, they'd kill them. They'd reinstate my father's debt and... So you were going to let them kill me instead. Song-ho strapped on the vest, checked his weapons. Very pragmatic. I was trying to save everyone. You can't. Song-ho grabbed his arm, dragged him toward the door as another explosion rocked the estate. You can't save everyone, Gio. Sooner or later, you have to choose. And you already chose. You chose whoever sent you over the man who would have burned the world to keep you safe. They burst into the hallway to find J1 running toward them, blood on his face. Boss, they're in the courtyard. Time minutes pinned down. We need to evacuate. No evacuation. Song-ho's voice was granite. We end this here. I want prisoners. I want answers. He looked at Gio. And I want to know exactly who thought they could take from me and live. The gunfire was getting closer. Gio could smell smoke, could hear men shouting in the darkness. His handler had triggered the assault. Had decided that if Gio couldn't deliver the files, they'd take them by force, and eliminate both Gio and Song-ho in the process. Acceptable collateral. I'm sorry, Gio whispered, but Song-ho was already moving. Already transformed into the monster the world feared, and Gio understood with terrible clarity that he'd just destroyed the only person who'd ever loved him enough to be a monster for him instead of to him. The choice was made. Now came the consequences. The courtyard had become a war zone. Gio pressed against the stone wall, body armor heavy on his frame, as Songho's men engaged the assault team in brutal close-quarters combat. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness. Someone screamed. Bodies fell. And Songho moved through it like death personified, precise, lethal, unstoppable. East corridor clear. Taiman's voice crackled through the radio. Boss, they're not trying to breach. They're trying to. The explosion took out the north wall. Gio was thrown backward, ears ringing, tasting blood. Through the smoke and debris, figures emerged, tactical gear, night vision, military precision. Not rival clan members. Professional operatives. His handler's extraction team. Target acquired. The voice came through a modulated speaker. A woman stepped through the rubble, rifle trained on Gio. Agent 7, you're coming with us. Willing or otherwise. He's not going anywhere. Songho appeared from the smoke, gun raised, bleeding from a gash across his temple. You made a mistake coming here. We made a mistake trusting a compromised asset. The woman's helmet concealed her face, but her tone was clinical. Agent 7 failed to deliver. Per protocol, we're extracting all actionable intelligence, starting with Cho Songho himself. More operatives flanked them. Gio counted 6, each armed, each positioned to create a lethal crossfire. Songho was outnumbered, outgunned, and still putting himself between Gio and the threat. You can't win this, the woman said. Stand down and we'll make it quick. Songho's laugh was feral. You have no idea what I'm capable of. Actually, we do. We've studied you for 18 months. The woman's gun shifted to aim at Songho's chest. Through Agent 7's reports. Your patterns. Your weaknesses. Your pathological need to protect what you claim is yours. Her helmet turned toward Gio. He played you perfectly. And now you're going to die for. Gio moved without thinking. He lunged forward, putting himself in the line of fire, hands raised. Stop. Just, stop. Gio, get back. Songho tried to pull him away. No. Gio held his ground, heart hammering. You want the files? You want Biko Clan's financial network? He pulled the burner phone from his pocket, the backup he'd kept hidden. It's here. 70% of the upload completed before Songho interrupted it. The banking codes, the shell companies, everything you need. The operative's stance shifted, interested. Gio, don't. Songho's voice was raw. Take it. Gio held out the phone. Take it and leave. Call off the assault. My family's debt is cleared, you get your intelligence, everyone walks away. You think we're negotiating? The woman's laugh was mechanical. We're taking the files and Cho Songho. Dead or alive. Then you're not taking anything. Gio's voice steadied. Because I'll destroy this phone right now. Smash it. Burn it. And every copy of that data is encrypted with a code only I know. You kill him, you get nothing. The standoff crystallized. Gio could feel Songho's rage radiating behind him, could feel his alpha instinct screaming to protect, to remove Gio from danger. You'd protect him? The operative sounded genuinely confused. After he trapped you? Baby trapped you? Took your choice. He took my choice because he loved me. Gio's hands shook but his voice didn't. You took my choice because I was ammunition. There's a difference. Sentiment makes you weak, Agent 7. No. Gio met where he imagined her eyes were behind the helmet. It makes me dangerous. Because I'm done being a weapon for people who see my child as acceptable collateral. I'm done being trapped between organizations that both think they own me. He stepped back, closer to Songho. I'm choosing. Right now. I'm choosing him. Then you're choosing death. Then we both die. Songho's arm came around Gio's waist, pulling him close. But so do all of you. My men have this compound surrounded. You breach this room, Everyone dies. Including your precious intelligence. The woman's helmet tilted. Your Omega would die with us. My Omega made his choice. Song-Ho's voice was granite and broken glass. I'm honoring it. Even if it kills us both. Silence. Tension coiled like a living thing. Then. Stand down. A new voice, male, from outside the blast zone. Mission abort. Repeat, mission abort. The operatives lowered weapons with clear reluctance. What? Geo didn't understand. We got what we needed. The man who entered wasn't in tactical gear. He was in a suit, expensive, with the kind of face that disappeared in crowds. The upload completed before you pulled the cables, Cho. 73% was enough. Our tech teams have been processing while we distracted you with the assault. Song-Ho's grip on Geo tightened. You already have the files. Had them for 30 minutes. The man smiled. This was just cleanup. Making sure loose ends, he looked at Geo, stayed tied. My family, Geo breathed. The debt. Already reinstated the moment you failed to deliver on schedule. The man checked his watch. Your mother has about 6 hours before the loan sharks make their first visit. Your father, well, hospitals require payment eventually. You son of a... However. The man raised a hand. I'm authorized to make a one-time offer. The debt disappears. Your family stays protected. And you stay here, with your alpha, and forget you ever worked for us. In exchange for? Song-Ho's voice was lethal. In exchange for you not retaliating. Not hunting us. Not burning down the coalition in revenge. The man's smile was cold. We have the files. We have what we needed. You keep your Omega and the air he's carrying. Everyone walks away. No one else dies tonight. And if I refuse? Song-Ho asked. Then we kill Geo's family, expose your operations to your syndicate partners, and watch you collapse from external and internal pressure simultaneously. The man buttoned his jacket. You're good, Cho. But you're not better than an entire coalition. Not when you're protecting a pregnant Omega. Geo felt Song-Ho's pulse hammering against his back. Felt the Alpha calculating odds, running scenarios, searching for the angle that kept everyone alive. There wasn't one. Fine, Song-Ho said finally. But the Omega never reports again. Never contacts you. He's out. Agreed. The man gestured to his team. Pleasure doing business. They filed out through the destruction, professional and efficient, leaving carnage and impossible choices in their wake. When the last operative disappeared, when they were alone with Time Minute and J1 securing the perimeter, Song-Ho released Geo and walked to the broken window. I should kill you, he said quietly. For what you've done. For the betrayal. For everything. I know. Geo's voice was raw. But I can't. Song-Ho's shoulders shook. Because despite everything, despite the lies and the mission and the fact that you were sent to destroy me, he turned, and his face was devastated. I still love you. I hate that I love you. But I do. I love you too. Geo moved closer. I know that doesn't fix anything. Doesn't erase the lies. But somewhere between the mission and the pregnancy and the helicopter ride to this mountain, it became real. You became real. Real enough to choose me when it mattered. Real enough that I'd rather die with you than live without you. Song-Ho pulled him close, and they stood in the wreckage of the compound and their trust, two broken people who'd lied and manipulated and trapped each other into something that looked like love from certain angles. This isn't a fairy tale, Song-Ho said against Geo's hair. We don't get a happy ending. No. Geo's hands fisted in Song-Ho's vest. We get an honest one. You took my choice. I betrayed your trust. We're starting from ashes. Can you live with that? Can you? Song-Ho pulled back enough to meet Geo's eyes. I can live with a lot of things. But I can't live without you. So we figure it out. We rebuild. We learn to trust again, even if it takes years. Years of you being a possessive alpha who sees threats everywhere. Years of you being a stubborn omega who argues with me about everything. Song-ho's smile was broken but real. Years of raising our child and dealing with the fact that we're both monsters who somehow found each other. That's the worst proposal I've ever heard. It's not a proposal. Song-ho's hand settled on Gio's stomach. It's a negotiation. You stay. I work on trusting you. You work on forgiving me. We build something real from the wreckage of what we destroyed. Gio looked around at the compound, walls blown apart, blood on stone, the price of their choices written in destruction. Then he looked at Song-ho, the alpha who'd trapped him, loved him, almost died protecting him despite the betrayal. Okay, Gio said. Let's negotiate. It wasn't love story written in the stars. It was love story written in fire and blood and brutal honesty, the only kind two broken people could build that might actually last.